Test. Test. Linus, we can't always hit a home run. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the April 12th meeting of the Brentwood Rotary Club. For those of you visiting today, my name is Michael King, and I am the president of this club. 9, count them, 9 more meetings. I get giddy just thinking about it. Okay, today, as you all know, is Pancake Day Eve. So make sure you get your tickets out. Get them out. We got to get them out so we have a good turnout. Update on John Stokes. He had his procedure yesterday. They did remove the mass that they were looking at, and they did some biopsies around. We don't know the results yet, but he is home and complaining, so maybe things are getting better. Today's invocation will be given by Alan Treadway, followed by Jennifer Bourne with the pledge and the 4-way test. Alan?
Hello, everybody. Bow your heads, please. Father, we invoke a blessing upon this occasion of Rotary Fellowship. Make us aware of a deeper significance of our meeting as we develop our friendships as a source of Rotary service radiating from this community to a wider community beyond. Amen.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the 4-way test of the things say and do. Number 1. Is it true? Number 2. Is it bear all concern? Number 3. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Number 4. Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All righty. Secretary Keeley Hall is going to Secretary Keeley Hall is going to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians.
Good morning, Rotarians. How is everybody today? I'm doing well, thank you, Sherry. All right, to Devin. Devin McClendon is going to introduce his guest today, who decided probably very smartly to sit at a different table.
Don't go there. I'm very proud to have Jay Galbraith with us again this week. If you don't remember, Jay was with us last week. He is a native Brentwood kid, if you will. But more importantly, he is also a member of the Williamson County Board of Education School Board for the 6th District here in Brentwood. So is Sheila here today? No? Okay, well, with Sheila and Jay here, we have the school board covered. Well, glad to have you.
And we have a special guest, past District Governor Kim. Mr. John Miles, would you like to introduce the first gentleman sitting to your right? I think that's only appropriate.
Well, we have visiting with us today the past District Governor who served several years ago from Hendersonville, and he is visiting with us today. So please welcome Kim.
Welcome, Kim. And that is all, Mr. President. Back to you.
Thank you, Keeley. Okay, a few announcements. Next Friday is Good Friday, so we will not be meeting next Friday. Hence, one of the reasons why there's only 9 more meetings left of my career. So please, make it a point not to be here next Friday.
Michael.
Yes, sir.
Alan's talking. He did not hear a word you said.
I'm sure Alan will know.
We're not meeting next Friday.
Okay, Pancake Day announcements. Devin McClendon has one to make.
Yes, if you had volunteered to help this afternoon, pick something up or go get something or haul something, feel free to come see me right after meeting. If you have any questions, otherwise you should have your assignment. And no, for those of you that did not volunteer to help do something this afternoon prior to setup, right, which I think is 3:30, and you want to help me haul a few things, I promise no heavy lifting. I promise not to ruin your car or anything, but I do need some extra car space to get some stuff over to the school from my house in River Oaks. So if you're able to help out, one, maybe two folks is all I need. Come see me right after meeting and I'll give you the instructions. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Devin. George Johnson has an announcement to make.
It's a little late on the posters that we didn't pick up last week, but in any event, please give blood tomorrow. If you can't give blood, please find somebody that can give blood. We are, the Red Cross is making it harder and harder to give blood, and as we get older, it gets harder and harder to get blood from you guys and gals. So find somebody. Let's still have a good blood drive. We're working on about 1,300 points.
All right, thank you, George. And Rodney asked me to make this announcement because he's a little soft-spoken, so I have the microphone, so I'll make it. Please make sure you get your tickets out. Tonight's obviously the last day to get the push out for the tickets. If you're working this shift today, please be on time. It starts at 3:30. Is that correct, Rodney? Okay. So please make sure you're there at 3:30. If you're working the first shift tomorrow, you need to be there for 6 o'clock. Now, what did we decide about the girls? Are we all set on that? So Brian has to be there earlier? Okay. All right. Everybody else, make sure you're there by 6 o'clock. Yes? If you're a pancake cook. All right. So if you're a pancake day cook, you need to be at the middle school today at 3:30 for training. Okay, there's a change, so you got to be there at 3:30. Any other Pancake Day announcements? Yes, sir.
As you know, we always bring extra supplies for the clowns, and as you're well aware, if you joined within the last 18 years, you're required to dress as a clown. So be sure to come by me. I've got makeup and everything for you. So.
Okay.
I don't think you need makeup.
Everybody loves a clown. All right, any other Pancake Day announcements? All right, Jay Evans. Where's Jay Evans? Jay, what's today? And what's the significance of today? All right, today is Jay Evans' birthday. So, on the count of 3, we are going to honor Jay with a resounding rendition of Happy Birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jay. Happy birthday to you. All right. My time up here is done for now. I will turn it over to Charles to introduce our guest, our speaker. Our guest speaker.
All righty. I don't know why he does that. Okay. All right. So I am so pleased to introduce Judy Good. Judy Good is the Director of Marketing at the Heritage. We talk about senior living a lot. Brentwood talks about senior living a lot. So it almost only seemed fitting to schedule someone who could come talk about senior living options here in Brentwood. And especially since the Heritage is right up the street, they're our neighbor. We need to every once in a while check in and find out what they're doing. So Judy is someone who's known well to me. My wife, of course, works at the Heritage. I've met Judy many times. She has over 20 years of senior living marketing experience, has been with the Heritage since 2010, which is not quite when it opened, right? Because you all have been... 2007, okay. Not quite from the beginning, but pretty close. She and her staff educate prospective residents on the differences regarding senior housing options in the greater Nashville area. She reviews her responsibility as assisting prospective residents, adult children, and their advisors to understand the options available. And with her guidance, they can feel confident in their selection of a life plan community, resulting in an exceptional lifestyle, peace of mind, and financial security. Well, isn't that what we all want? On a personal note, she's married to Paul, has 3 kids, one who works for the American Lung Society, one who's a speech pathologist, and one who's a circus performer. You're going to need to come back and do a day just on that. And in her spare time, she likes to hang out in her backyard. All right. Come on up, Judy. Yeah, I'm not the only one. Yeah. But she's smart enough to wear skincare. Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. It's not often that people can say, I'm so glad my daughter joined the circus. But but she actually is a circus performer, and she has a circus performing business. And it makes life very interesting. But I just want to thank you, Charles and Mike, for letting me speak here today. I'm not going to be your only speaker today. I'm also going to bring up Stephen Williams, who is a residency counselor at the Heritage 2. My voice may not last the full 30 minutes that we're here speaking, and we do a great job tag teaming. Has anybody been to a senior living community to visit for themselves or a loved one? Okay. Is anybody in that industry, worked in that industry, senior living industry? Yes, that's right. Anybody in the nursing home industry? Okay. Well, how many people, when they left school, whether it was high school or college, said, golly, I cannot wait to save up all my money and move to a senior living community? Absolutely no one. No one. So when someone looks at senior living, looks to learn about senior living, there's usually a reason why. Something happened in their life, an event. Maybe they saw someone go through a circumstance that may have been hard as they were aging or difficult. Maybe something happened to them. Maybe their memory is starting to fade, which is normal, honestly. It's just a whole process of aging. But when someone approaches the senior living mindset, thinking about that as their next step, there's a reason why. It's not something that we naturally work towards. So it's interesting. Stephen and I meet with a lot of people, and when they come to us, we may find out what that reason is, but many times we really don't. But we learn it after they move in, usually, what that prevailing reason was why they were looking at the Heritage or at senior living. Senior living is changing. When I started in the industry, it was 1995. And I've worked in 3 states. Yes, I am a Yankee. You can probably tell by my accent. And a few different communities and a variety of different communities. And what I've learned over the last 24 years is that senior living communities have changed. They've changed tremendously. Back 24 years ago, the true perspective of everyone when looking at senior living was moving to a nursing home. And then it evolved to, I'm moving to an assisted living home. Well, now with the options that are coming up, especially here in Brentwood, the perspective is changing again. It's more of, there's an active life there. And you know what? That's not a bad thing to get rid of this big old 6,000 or 5,000 square foot house, get rid of all that maintenance, and have everything right at my fingertips in one location. So what we're seeing now with the baby boomers, I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers. I am at the tail end of the baby boomers. But the baby boomers that are coming out, which are probably about 74 years old, 73, 74 years old, are the leading head of the baby boomers. They are looking at senior living communities. They probably had something that occurred in their life that led them to look at senior living communities, but they're looking at senior living communities with a new approach. They're looking to see, how am I going to benefit? I want to know that there's care available on that campus, but I want to know that I'm going to have a full, active, and fun life. When where did I see? I saw the word fun somewhere. Where was it? There was fun. In the statement. Enjoy each other's company. Have fun working together. And that really stuck out to me when I read your mission statement. And I thought, you know what? That is really the approach that the baby boomers are having when looking at the next step in senior living. I hope that my knowledge that I have will give you some insight into senior living. I hope that you will ask questions. I have just a short period of time, but I hope you do have some questions for us, and we're happy to field that. And I do hope you come to visit us at the Heritage too. We are not salespeople, we are educators. Stephen and I, we'd rather not be at our desk, and we'd rather be sitting with you and talking with you and sharing the fun information that we have about the Heritage and how it compares to other communities. But today we're going to talk briefly about the options here in Brentwood. So behind me are those that are part of the Heritage, and I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing here, but no, I'm not doing the right thing here. Okay, good old technology. I hit the wrong button. Okay, so just so that you know who we are at the Heritage, John Taggart's is our executive director. I'm Judy Good. I've been there since February of 2010. Stephen is joining us today. He's the residency counselor. Kimberly Russell is our move-in coordinator. And Juvia, her name is Juvia, 2 L's make a J, Stockfleet is our marketing assistant. If you do have an opportunity to come to the Heritage, you will meet certainly all of us, or at least a few of us. We also have Dr. Chatterjee, who actually lives at the Heritage here, and she's been a big support for the Rotary as well. Yes. So, senior living topics that we're going to go through today. And again, please ask questions. If I can offer any kind of knowledge to all of you, that is truly my goal. Stephen's going to talk about where to start when approaching senior living. I'll come back and talk about what types of senior living communities there are, and really focus on 2 that are available in Brentwood. We're going to talk about what is Life Care, which is the most premier senior living community that anyone could live in. And then we'll talk about a little bit how much does this all cost. And then we'll also have an opportunity for questions after we discuss. But please interject with questions as we go along. I'm going to have Stephen come up right now. This is a very important screen. When you are approaching senior living for yourself or a loved one, it's very important to know where to start. Stephen?
Thanks, Judy. Stephen Williams, I'm a Williamson County native and actually a Tennessee native, so it's a little bit rare maybe to be a native Tennessee, and married a Nashville native, so we're very unique maybe in the area. But been at the Heritage now for 6 years. It's been a great place for me. And as Judy said, really what we do is we try to work with people and make plans. This is a place and an opportunity in people's lives when planning is very important. And so we're really educating people and trying to help them do their homework when they're looking for the next step. So specifically where to start, many people will come and they'll sit with us and they've maybe already started these plans. Some people will sit with us and they say, you know what? My kids made me do it, or my spouse is making me come. A lot of times I jokingly say there are heel marks all the way from the parking lot into the office because somebody has drugged somebody else into to see one of us. So that's okay. However they get there, if they're learning, that's a good thing. I always jokingly say, not everybody is going to move to the Heritage, but we want you to get the education that you need so you're making the best decision for yourself. So we make a lot of friends along the way. We hope they move in, but if they don't, we've educated a lot of people. So making a timeline, this is very important. So we tell people, make a timeline. I'm married to a teacher. I have to make a timeline for everything I do because I'm very much on a task-oriented in my house. So making that timeline is very important. Many people will sit with us and they'll say, you know what, I'm not ready for another 5 years, another 10 years. That's okay. Have that timeline. So you want to have an approach that's very methodical for what you're trying to do. Many of you may work in jobs and careers that are working with people who are kind of going through this process as well. You know the importance of having a timeline for your people, for your clients. So Talking to family and friends is also very important. Many people that look at senior living or retirement living have family, they have friends that are doing the same exact thing, and they're looking at other communities, just like you are doing or your family and friends are doing, and you can compare notes, you can compare resources, you can say, you know what, I visited the Heritage at Brentwood, here's what I learned. I visited XYZ community, here's what I've learned. So compare notes, really try to draw on those notes from other people and other places so you can have a lot of synergy with that information that you're gathering. Seeking advice from trusted professionals. Many of you may be trusted professionals for these people. You might be an attorney. We talk with a lot of people who are talking with their attorneys or talking with their estate planners. A lot of times clergy members are very important. Talking with people who have an expertise in the senior living environment so they can give recommendations and they can give you some things to think about. That's very important. We tell people to visit communities. It takes a lot of energy to go and visit a lot of these places, but we say, how do you know you're making your best decision if you're not visiting many different places? And so we feel like we're the best at the Heritage, but we do want people to go and we want them to look around. Location is very big. Many times people are going to locate near a child or a grandchild. And I say usually our biggest attraction at the Heritage, it's grandkids, jokingly, because a lot of times, folks who are retiring, they want to be close to their family members and they want to be close to those grandkids. And so if that's you or if that's somebody that you know, you're probably looking at places near your kids and your grandkids. So that's important. Sometimes kids, or not kids, but folks, when they come and talk to us, they say, you know what, we're going to make our decision and then we're going to tell our family about it. And that's okay if that's you. You don't have to involve your family in this decision. It can go very well either way, but when I see a family kind of involving in this whole process, it can really, really work well. So that's very important. And lastly, just comparing costs. We're very transparent where we work, but I think every community that you visit or that people that you know are going to visit, they're going to be very transparent. They're going to share with you what the costs are, what the levels of care. Judy's going to share a little bit about levels of care. That's very important. So you want to know not only what are my costs when I move in, but what are my costs going to be if I need a higher level of care? What's the future going to look like as I live here and I age in place? You may hear that term, aging in place. So those are just some things kind of, really they're basic, they're common, but many times just kind of having a plan is the best place to start. And whatever that plan is for you or for somebody that you know, your friend, family, neighbor, loved one, somebody that you know is probably either thinking about this or will be thinking about that. So these are just some practical ways that you can help them. Judy and I are kind of passing the baton, so back to you, Judy.
It saves our voice. Well, so to get to a little more of the different types of senior living communities, those of you who have visited senior living communities know now in Middle Tennessee, there are more options now than there ever has been, especially the last 3 years. Communities are popping up like popcorn. You see buildings, and there's one on Church Street. There's the assisted living on Wilson Pike. Some of the other communities, the older communities, the one on Granny White has changed hands. So right now, you're seeing a lot of activity here in Brentwood with senior living. And, it was interesting for many years while working at the Heritage, there was this movement with, I guess, many of the residents in Brentwood saying there's not enough senior living. Well, now there's plenty. There is plenty of senior living. But how do you sort through all of that? So we categorize senior living in several different ways. The first category that seniors look at and they consider is a downsize from their current residence. And when they do that, they look at what is called a 55-plus community. A 55-plus community is another real estate purchase. You're going from, if you're currently in a house, which is a real estate house, you'll be selling that with a realtor or on your own. Now I think you can do it on your own a little easier than you could in the past. And then you're going to another realtor to purchase another house. You may get a smaller house or, some lawn maintenance done. But that is a 55 community is a real estate community. There are none in Brentwood. There are some apartments you could rent in Brentwood that aren't designated as 55 plus. But what a 55 plus community would be is just another real estate purchase. You're still responsible for all the maintenance and upkeep inside, heating, ventilation, plumbing, electrical, all that kind of thing. When when the gutters need to be cleaned, you have to manage that. The next community, which is the types of communities that are being built now, and this is a segment of the industry that's growing to meet the need of baby boomers who have a middle moderate income and assets. They would go into a rental community that has assisted living and memory care. Now that provides, the ability to downsize. This does give you the opportunity to have a turnkey lifestyle where you don't have to worry about interior maintenance or exterior maintenance. And it does give you a limited amount of care. Many people, and this is something that is very important to Stephen and I when educating those that come to visit with us, many people believe that assisted living and memory care can provide all levels of care. It cannot. By law, it cannot. When you are a community that has assisted living and memory care, you have a particular license that you have to abide by for a certain level of care. You cannot get nursing home care in an assisted living community or a memory care community. Predominantly, there's about 4 different levels of care, may relating to personal care, may relate to medication management, maybe a little bit of queuing. But when you're in a community and with a rental community with assisted living and memory care, it's a limit of care. And I think that's important to consider when you are approaching senior living, to understand what services are available. Now, when you go to visit these other communities, you want to get the specifics. You want to speak with the representative of that community and understand completely. Get their contract. They should give it to you. We give it out. Everyone should give it out. And most will. I think most here in this area will give you their contract. And read that contract. Who's a lawyer? All right. My lawyer friends, when they come to visit, the first thing they ask, give me the contract, and that's what we do. And so you want to understand the intricacies of every single community and understand exactly the scope of care that's offered in that setting and how you transition from one care level to the other and what are your options if you don't want to. So these are important aspects that you need to keep in mind when looking at senior living communities. The other type of community, which is not being built as much, this was built in the 90s, quite a few. There's a couple in Franklin like this. There are rental communities, an opportunity to downsize, get into a setting where you don't have maintenance or upkeep, but no assisted living. So there's communities in Nashville, community in Franklin, that are these rental communities, age-restricted rental communities, so you have to be at least 55 years or older. With these communities, you actually have a dining room that you go to for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you may or may not have a full kitchen. Many of the older ones do not have a full kitchen. They have like a microwave and a sink and a refrigerator. But these type of communities, again, help provide a service for a segment of the community for low income and moderate income residents in the area. The next, any questions so far? I know I'm going through this. I'm watching the time. I'm glad there's a clock there, by the way. And please feel free to, stop and ask specific questions. The next one is fee-for-service buy-in community. Now, when I started here in the Brentwood area at the Heritage, no one ever used the word buy-in. Now, I've heard that word over in other states. That's a common word that you hear in the industry for these types of communities. But never have I heard that terminology until about 3 years ago. When rental communities started popping up, they would say, oh, we're not a buy-in, and they would advertise as such, we're not a buy-in. So folks that would come to visit with me would say, are you a buy-in? And I'd be like, oh, okay. So now the community here is getting more educated in the different types of communities. So a buy-in community is a type of community where there's an upfront entrance payment. You have a large upfront entrance payment that you pay, and you pay a monthly fee. So a rental community, a fee-for-service community that has a buy-in, you have an upfront fee that you pay, and you have a recurring monthly fee while you live there. However, when you go in when you're independent, you have to be independent to get into these types of communities. They do have assisted living. The fee-for-service communities will have a nursing home. So you will have what we call the full continuum of care. So when you enter these communities, you pay an entrance payment. You may or may not have a refund associated with that initial entrance payment. And again, you want to get that contract and read that and understand the intricacies of that. And if there is a refund, how that gets paid back. The monthly fee covers a variety of services and amenities on campus. But that monthly fee, I can assure you, in every single community, whether it's a rental community or a fee-for-service or even the life care, it'll go up every month, every year. Your monthly fee every year will go up. Been doing this 24 years, worked across the country. Every single place that you live when you're a senior in a senior living community, that monthly fee is going to go up every year. But in a fee-for-service community, it also changes with your level of care significantly. And I have a slide at the end that will give you what nursing home costs are today if you were to be in a fee-for-service community or a rental community and you needed that care. There's a few communities in this area that are like that. There are only 4 communities in the Middle Tennessee area that offer a full continuum of care where you have independent living through nursing home care. The Heritage is one of them. If you'd like to know more about that after the meeting, Stephen or I will be happy to let you know the other ones. The next category of communities is a life care community. So when we in the industry categorize different types of senior living communities, we categorize them as A, B, C, and D. This is sort of reversed. Life care buy-in community is a type A senior living community. That means that you get the most comprehensive services. You have the full continuum of care, and you have an abundance of amenities on the campus that you can tap into. There's only one in Middle Tennessee, and that's the Heritage. There's one in Memphis called Kirby Pines, and there's one in Chattanooga called Alexian Village, and there's one east of Knoxville called Shenandoah. That's it in the state of Tennessee for this type of community. There's only about 2,000 of these types of communities in the entire country. They are a big commitment for an owner to build. Some of them are nonprofit, some of them are for-profit, and honestly, it has to operate well, whether it is a nonprofit or for-profit. I've worked for both. I've seen nonprofits not work well, and for-profits run very well. So that, to me, is really a moot point, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit. What matters is how is it run and how is it managed. So a life plan community is a type of community where you have the full continuum of care. You have independent living. You have home health services that you can get in independent living. You have assisted living. You have memory care. You have nursing home care. You also have a variety of other services as well. And I'm going to bring, because I feel my voice going, Stephen back on just to briefly go through this as we're getting short on time.
Brief keyword. I'm not going to go over all of these bullet points, but I do want to just kind of share with you just the importance of a lot of these, and the life care plan being the overall plan that we offer. So it's really a place, and I tell people this all the time, it's a place where people are moving in while they're still independent. So they're still capable of independent living. In fact, they do have to be independent when they move to the Heritage. So you have to go through some steps and there's some criteria that you have to go through. So you have to be independent. You're putting a plan in place. So the person who moves to a place like the Heritage is putting a plan in place that says, you know what, if I ever need a higher level of care, whether it be assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, rehab care, whatever that plan is, it's all on site. So it's all on campus. I never have to worry about myself or my loved one making decisions down the road that might be in a crisis mode situation. I hear this a lot, and I think this is really nice. A lot of times residents will move in and they'll say, you know what, Stephen, at the end of the day, this was an awesome place for us after the dust sort of settles. And I never tell anybody when they move in that moving's easy. Moving is not easy. It's a time of transition. Many times I work with people who have lived in their homes for 50 years, 60 years sometimes even. They've been in that house. And so we're very honest and kind of work through this process. But when they move in, they say, you know what, this was awesome, but it was also a gift that I'm giving to my kids, to my family. This is truly a gift because this is a place that I love, but a place that my family loves for me to be as well. So I always want to leave you with that. But specifically, and Judy's talked a little bit about the return of capital, or what I call the refund. So there is this upfront entry payment that residents are making at the Heritage. And so the refund would be an 80%, 90%, or even we're now offering 100% return of capital on that upfront entry payment. So we're kind of just giving you a little tip of the iceberg today. I'm not going into a whole lot of detail on some of these things. Our challenge, honestly, is to not try to make everybody an expert because you have to kind of come in and gather some of this information. But there is a return on the upfront entry payment with all the levels, as I mentioned again, available within the monthly fees. So the monthly fees at the Heritage that a resident pays are relatively stable no matter what level of care that someone requires. So truly, that's the financial benefit to that resident. And I tell people all the time, you may move in here and you may never darken the doors of our health center. And amen for you. That is the way that we always want to be, right? We don't want to maybe go into assisted memory, skilled, or rehab. But if you do, you've got the stabilization of your monthly fees no matter what level of care that you need. Turnkey living, I'm just going to hit some of the few things. Of course, our fitness center on site, rehab. I've got to mention, of course, Charles' wife, Rupa. She's our nurse practitioner, but she does a wonderful job with our clinic. We partnered with Williamson Medical Center recently, so we actually have a clinic that operates 5 days a week for our residents. They can just walk down the hall. They can see Rupa. The doctor's there 1 day a week, so just very convenient. Everything is under the same roof for our resident. And then, with all the levels of care being there, they've got this plan, so they don't have to worry about the future. I'm trying to be quick. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Someone moves in there and they buy an independent villa or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And then they pass on. How long does it take before you can liquidate that and return the investment?
Yeah, good question. So and again, it's hard to attack all of the. I wish I could even say, and I'm going to answer your question, but so we have apartments and villas. So on the independent living side, apartments and villas. But if someone passes away, if it's a couple after the second person passes, we're going to resell the villa or the apartment. So by contract, what happens is once that villa or apartment sells, so it's at selling point, that's when the either 80%, 90%, or 100% would be returned back to the estate. Now, also in our contract, it says if after, and heaven forbid we got to this situation, but if after 24 months we had not sold one of the places, so the apartment or villa, the 90%, 80%, or 100% would go back on the 24th month, whether it has sold or not. But it's at resale is when that goes back. Does that answer your question?
With one thing you left out. If you've already moved into the Summerfield,
Okay.
and you've resold that, how quickly you get the check?
So good question. So the way I answer that, the question is, what if I've moved into the health center and the apartment or the villa has sold? You have to physically either be promoted. You have to have left the community. So if you're in the health center, then that refund, even though that place is sold, does not go back at that point. So yes, so be clear on that. Just because someone has moved into a longer term situation within the campus, so higher level of care if they've moved in. 14 days later. Yep. So 14 days after passing. So that answers that question there. So, yep. Good question. So we're going to get into a lot of questions. This is a good question. So keep in mind, and this is what I have to tell everybody when they move to the Heritage or prior to moving as you're looking. It's not a real estate investment. So what you're buying is a life care plan. This is a life care contract. So you're 80%, and it's 80% if it's a villa, 90% if it's an apartment, and then the 100% are just a newer plan that we're offering on some of our brand new apartments. So what you're buying is this life care plan. Whatever you buy in, so if you live in the community for 20 years, your 80, 90, or 100% is based on what you pay in at the time. So it is not an appreciating asset, if you will. Your estate or you, if you ever move out, you would get the refund once it sells, is 80 or 90% or 100% of what you pay in at the time. There is no sharing, no, not at the Heritage. Now, when you visit other communities, there you go. What's that? So the initial investment on the 80%. Yep. So the question up front was on 80%. So the 80% are all villas, and so our villas have a range. So the entry range for a villa is going to be just over $400,000. So that would be a buy-in for a villa. They go all the way up over $800,000. So you've got 11 different floor plans of villas. So they range from, our smallest villa is 1,450 square feet. Our largest villa is just under 2,200 square feet. So you've got a pretty nice range of sizes, and it's not that we don't want to answer even more specifics, but when someone comes and visits with us, I mean, there's 22 floor plans we can pull out. There's prices that are ranging from, our apartments are going to start just over $300,000 for a buy-in. Monthly fees are going to be around $4,100 for the monthly fee on that apartment, and they go all the way up over $800,000, and the monthly fees will go right around $5,100. So there's just a lot of variables in there. But any other? I may be stealing your thunder for. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, good question. So we just recently opened a lot of our new amenities. So if you haven't been to the Heritage, or if you haven't been there in a while, now's a good time to visit, because this final piece was just basically finished. We've got one more piece to go. It'll open in May, which is 97 new apartments. We currently have 150 apartments. So we're adding to our apartment mix. Everybody asks us all the time, are you building more villas? I wish we were building more villas, honestly, but we're not. We're out of land, so no more villas. We have 65 villas, but what we did is we also added an indoor pool. We added an auditorium, so we've got a space for 300 residents in our new auditorium. We've got a new dining room, brand new clinic. So we've added all of these amenities that honestly our residents have been wanting for a long time, but now we're able to offer that. So the final phase is this Redbud phase. You may see some advertisements or things about it. We're calling it our Redbud phase. So we're excited about being able to offer that, and we're excited. Any other questions?
80 or 90 or 100% return. What if an elderly person moves in, they pay the upfront fee, they go to health care, and then I don't know, the market crashes, and all of a sudden they have difficulty making the money to pay? Could that be a problem? You want to do it, or maybe lump sum due back to them?
That has happened. So remember 2008? So in 2008, we paused building our next phase for a few years. Probably in 2010 and 2011, right when I was starting at the Heritage, there were some places that I sold that were significantly less than the refund to the previous person who passed away. What we sold it for did not affect the refund that the previous person had. So there were 3 places I can recall that were significantly lower entrance payment that came in. But when you have an agreement in a life care community, whether it's the Heritage or another community in this country, that agreement is a good agreement. And the amount of money you pay, whatever your refund is, 80, 90, or 100%, that's what you get regardless of what the place sells for, whether it's higher or lower. Yes, sir.
Is your balance sheet available? What do you back that with? Does the money go in trust?
No. So that's a lawyer, isn't it? My brother's a bankruptcy lawyer. I know y'all. So when you're looking at senior living communities, you have to look at who the management company is and their record and how they've managed over the years. With the Heritage, you have the assurance of LCS in Des Moines, Iowa, who is the managing partner of the Heritage, who's been in business since 1971, has about 160 communities across the country, managed many more over the years, never has had a failure. LCS actually picks up communities that have gone bankrupt and takes them over and revitalizes them and gets them back on track. It's been my experience that I've been through bankruptcy with a different company, and the new company that bought it actually went bankrupt again, and then Brookdale bought it. But the residents in that community still live there. They still have their agreement. The new group that picked it up honors their agreement. Now, they may change the new agreements to their terms, but I have yet to see, in my experience, when there is a failure in a senior living company or community, the next company is over having a failure with the residents there. So, it would be highly unusual. You may find a case somewhere that has done that. I think there might have been one back in the 80s or 90s in Chicago that maybe there was a failure that really was a failure. But across the country, there's only few organizations that manage senior living communities, and you want to make sure that you move into a community that's managed by one of the top companies that does manage. The Heritage at Brentwood is a private company. LCS is a private company. It is not publicly traded. We are happy to share with you. We don't hand them out, but we would be happy to share with you the audited financial statements. Steve and I have access to that for every year that the community is opened. So we are happy to share that with anybody who's interested in moving into the Heritage. John Cooper and John Stone, that was the very first screen that was on. John Cooper and John Stone are local owners. Jim Cooper's brother, John, and John Stone is a local attorney. And they live in Nashville. I think they live both in Green Hills. Yeah, they both live in Green Hills. And they owned the property and partnered with LCS in Des Moines, Iowa, to develop and build the community. So they've been there right from dirt. And I think John Cooper's pickup truck got stuck in the mud, and he said, okay, this is it. So, and I think they owned this whole property all the way to Concord Road, donated Tower Park to the city of Brentwood, donated where the police station is, that land, to the city of Brentwood. So they're benevolent people, and they hung on to the senior living community as probably a testimony to them getting older as well. So, and I think they're my age. But John Cooper, John Stone has a partnership that owns 83.5%. 17.5% is owned by LCS in Des Moines, Iowa, and they're the managing partners and also the developer of the community. I know I'm running over, but I wanted to just make a few points about how much it costs to have long-term care. Does anybody have anybody in a nursing home right now? In the last 5 years in a nursing home? Okay. Last year in a nursing home? Okay. So if you were to move into a nursing home today from your current house that you live in now, and most people want a private room. Some people can't afford a private room, and they get a semi-private room. But if you were to go into a nursing home today, had an unfortunate event that's unexpected and you need a nursing home, the cost of a private room in Middle Tennessee ranges from about $350 per day to $425 per day. If you had the fortunate opportunity to move into Summerfield, you didn't live in any of the independent living areas of the Heritage. Summerfield is the health center at the Heritage. It provides care for every resident in the Heritage, but because we're not totally built out, there are those that have moved from Brentwood, Franklin, and Nashville into Summerfield Health Center. If you have the opportunity to live there and you come directly to Summerfield, you're paying over $11,000 a month to live there. If you're going to an assisted living community, anyone in this area, you're looking to pay probably for one person to be in an assisted living community and you have a suite, you're looking between $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, and $9,000 depending on your level of care. So it's a very expensive proposition to move to assisted living, memory care, or nursing home care. So when you're looking at a life care plan, and again, Heritage is a life care plan. I really don't want this to be a sales pitch, but I just want it to be an educational platform about what life care is. If you're in a life care, type A life care community, your monthly fee, remember I said your monthly fee changes every year, but in a life care setting, it's not fee for service. When you transition over to a higher level of long-term care, your monthly fee has a small increase. In this example, you would be paying oh my gosh, my glasses aren't that good. $5,439 a month as opposed to $14,800 or $815. So that's the savings. So, the question about entrance payments and appreciation and all that, the entrance payment allows you to get this benefit. And it's a very large benefit. And you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was in a nursing home where there was one wing dedicated to those that lived there 10 years or more. So life care, and I've worked in all the different types of communities, is really the best financial plan, but you do have to be able to afford it. And not everybody can. And that's why the rental communities are popping up, because not everybody can afford the Heritage. But we would be happy to talk with you and sit down and talk with you about your financial situation or your loved one's financial situation to see what type of community would work best for them. Any questions? I have a basket here I'm going to put at the front. We're going to do 2 drawings. I know everybody's starting to leave now. We're going to do a $100 gift certificate to J. Alexander. If you put your business card here or fill out a card, yeah, $100 to J. Alexander. Who likes J. Alexander? The other thing is, if you're on Facebook and you like us on Facebook and share today the Heritage at Brentwood on Facebook, we're going to track that, and we're going to pick a person who likes us and forwards us or shares us on Facebook today, and they're going to get a $100 J. Alexander card. So we're going to do a drawing for Facebook, and we're going to do a drawing here. I wish I could put my card in there. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I went a little bit over. Like the pastor.
While they're doing that, Judy, we'd like you to accept this as a token of our appreciation for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
And if you would sign this, we read to elementary school students, and we would tell them about your visit today.
Oh, that is great.
Okay. Before everyone gets up and runs out of here, we need help putting back tables and chairs. Huh? Lots of help putting back tables and chairs today. And there is a BRCCF meeting for all those that are on the board members of the BRCCF. Please make sure you stick around for that meeting for today. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we are adjourned.